Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here for the final look breakdown of the Week 9 NFL main slate on Draftkings. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you guys again for all the support. It is greatly appreciated. The easiest way to support me, since all the content is free, is leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos and know when to go live. Closing in right now on 5.6 thousand subscribers. Also, if you guys enjoy the content, spread the word, right? If you have friends that play DFS and you like the videos, you like the live streams, they're helpful, spread the word. I would greatly appreciate it. If you guys cannot watch these videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast as well. The link is in the description below, which is the DK DFS show. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So, before talking about players and their prices, let's take a glance at these over-unders and Vegas spreads here. So, we have Ravens, Colts. It's currently a 48 over-under. We have Panthers, Chiefs, a 52.5 over-under. Chiefs are 10.5 point favorites. I believe right now that is the highest over-under on the board. Currently, it is. Bears, Titans is a 47 over-under. The Titans are 6.5 point favorites. We have Broncos, Falcons. It's a 50 over-under. The Falcons are currently 4 point favorites. Texans and Jags, 50.5 over-under. The Texans are 7 point favorites. We have the Giants and Washington. It's a 43 over-under. Washington's 2.5 point favorites. Oh, no, actually the Bills, Seahawks is the highest over-under here. It's a 55 over-under. We have Seahawks 3 point favorites. Raiders, Chargers is a 51.5 over-under. And then Cardinals, Dolphins, a 49 over-under. The Cardinals, 4.5 point favorites. Steelers, Cowboys, 43 over-under. The Steelers are currently 14.5 point favorites, and that rounds it out for the main slate. So we'll start at quarterback as always, and a lot of these top guys are in plays. They're in really good spots. We have Mahomes at 8-1. Every single slate is in play. Every single slate. And honestly, I think if you have enough, if you're comfortable with enough of the value, there's some potential value plays, a few min-price receivers that I think you can spend up a quarterback in cash, right? I've actually been doing it a lot, and it's been working out for me. Now, again, I haven't been playing cash every slate, but I think you can spend up a quarterback in cash games. If you have the salary from Mahomes, have absolutely no issue. Again, you can pair him with Hill, Kelsey, right? So Mahomes, again, is in play every single slate, and someone that I think looks pretty good. Kyler Murray, you guys know my love for Kyler Murray. Now, every single time he's been on the main slate, I've played him. Am I going to play him this week? I don't know. I want to, but it's just the price is no longer. We're not getting him at like an amazing discount like we were earlier in the year when he's in like the low to mid 6K range. So the matchup's fair here against Miami. I guess my one concern is Miami's offense. Am I confident that they can score enough points in this one to make it a really high-scoring game? I don't know yet. What I saw out of Tua wasn't great, right? It was a lot of the Dolphins' defense. So, yes, Kyler Murray is in play. I love playing him. Am I going to play him this week? Right now, I'm leaning towards no, but the upside is through the roof on him. And again, with his rushing ability too, just raises his floor. You got a clear guy you can pair him with, obviously, in DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think a ton of people will do that this week. So, yeah, Russell Wilson and Josh Allen in the same game. Both look really good. I think both are going to be pretty popular here in the highest over-under game. This definitely has makings for a shootout. You have stacking ability on both sides here with the top two receivers are for Seattle and Metcalf and Lockett. On Buffalo, obviously, you have Diggs. You have a cheap John Brown. So, yeah, I like both those guys a good amount. Deshaun Watson, I think, will be pretty popular in a great spot. My one concern here is Jacksonville playing with a backup quarterback. Again, can they score enough points to keep this really competitive? And the reason why Watson he gets there a lot of the time is because they're always trailing, right? So it's always good game script for Houston here. This is a game I think they're going to be playing from ahead. So, do they rely on the ground game a little bit more? Maybe. But the price point and the matchup is still very fair here. So basically all these guys at the top, and including Lamar Jackson here too at 6'9". I know he had not that good of a week last week, but that was a really tough matchup. And again, he got a little bit unlucky there. He had, 3 fumbles, 2 picks, or was it 2 fumbles? I think it was only 2 fumbles. Either way, the floor is really high in him because of his rushing ability, like Kyler Murray, right? The matchup is not amazing, but this is just kind of a price point thing, right? 6.9K. A decent amount of people, including myself, played him last week, kind of got burned. So I don't know if a lot of people go back to him, but the price dropped $500. So once again, I think you can go to Lamar in both formats. So yeah, really these top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks I think are in play in both formats, right? If you're comfortable with enough value, you can definitely spend up a quarterback in cash. Herbert at 6'8" against this Raiders team, I think is a decent play. I do feel a little bit more comfortable getting to the guys above him. I think the upside is a little bit higher. And we did see 41 from him 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville, but I just think he's an okay play here in the mid-range. I'm probably not going to prioritize him. Now, Stafford, this is something to keep an eye on. There's still a chance he could play without practicing this week, so yeah, got to keep an eye on that. If he does play, yeah, he's okay, right? It's a good spot, but we haven't really seen any upside from him. Kind of same with Cousins, right? Minnesota's a run-first team. They only threw the ball 14 times last week, so if they are playing from ahead, they are going to rely on the ground game. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to Big Ben. I know it's an amazing matchup, but I'm not comfortable in Dallas. I'm not confident that Dallas can score enough. Matt Ryan is probably not for me. You can always look to him in tournaments. Yeah, Bridgewater at 6K, I do think flies under the radar. Now, Christian McCaffrey's coming back. This is a game that projected to be playing from behind. I know Kansas City's been pretty solid defensively, but I think you could look to Bridgewater just wait for GPPs. And then we've got some cheap plays. So a couple guys I think you can look to in cash you want a punt quarterback. One of those guys being Derek Carr at 5'7". Last week he was a guy at first that I was pretty high on, but then since the terrible wind, we got off him. Obviously talked about that in the live stream. I kind of throw that game against Cleveland out the window. I'm not overly concerned about it. Previous weeks, 17, 24, 27, 20 fantasy points. He's been pretty consistent. He did run the ball for 41 yards last week, which is a little bit surprising. But he's been playing good, and I think this is a game that is, again, one of the higher over-unders of the slate. I think you can look to Derek Carr's way. You have, a guy you can definitely pair him with in Darren Waller. Rivers, I know he's been good in back-to-back weeks, but the match against Baltimore, I'm not going to go there. Tua, haven't seen enough for me to get confident there. You can look to him if you want GPPs. Foles at 5'5". I think you can pull the trigger on him in cash if you want to. It's kind of a situation like Jimmy G, right? Are you really going to feel great about it? No. And you saw a lot of people play Jimmy G last week, and a lot of people got burnt. But the good thing here with Foles, 42, 39, 40, and 41 pass attempts. So he's throwing a lot. The matchup's good. And, again, you have guys you can pair him with. You have Robinson. You have a cheap Mooney. So I think Foles is viable in both formats here. Let's see, Kyle Allen's Drew Lock's at 5'2". Kind of the same situation, right? It's a good matchup. Do I feel amazing about it? No, because he's not that good of a quarterback. But I think he's at least in play. Again, are you going to feel good about it in cash? No, but I think you could go there if you want to punt it. And that about wraps it up for me for quarterback. So, yeah, mid-range, I'm not overly excited about for quarterback. It's probably going to be spend up for me or spend down on a guy maybe like Derek Carr. I think you can consider Foles. Maybe even consider Drew Lock in there too. So that's kind of where I'm looking for quarterback this week. Running back, let's talk about it. McCaffrey, 8.5. He's going to be pretty low owned this slate. Probably, maybe the lowest owned we'll get McCaffrey this year because coming off the injury, there's no guarantee he's going to get his full workload. They said they still want to incorporate Mike Davis, so that's just going to get people off McCaffrey. But he is just a guy that I still think is going to get a majority of the work. He's very productive with his touches. Again, he's a wide receiver basically and a running back, and he's at a really cheap price point, right? First 2 weeks of the season, he was at 10K. He's at 8.5K now. So, yes, I like Christian McCaffrey a lot for GPPs. Can I go there in cash games? I don't know, just because the uncertainty of the workload, right? But I like his upside a lot here at this price. Now, Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be very popular in cash, especially if Stafford is out too, because then I'm pretty confident Minnesota will be playing from ahead in this game most of the time. And hey, we saw what they did against Green Bay, right? They basically abandoned the pass game when they were playing from ahead, and it was just Dalvin Cook. They just gave the ball to him 30 times in the ground. So is the ownership going to be up in Dalvin Cook? Yes. Is going to be pretty popular this slate? Yes. But I think he does look pretty solid for cash games, especially if Stafford is out. I think that they rely on him, or he could get even more touches in a great spot. So I do like Dalvin Cook, and he's in play in both formats. Going to be popular either way. Derrick Henry at 7-9, I'm just not going there. I'm just not doing it. No involvement in the pass game, a tough spot. Can he still get you there? Yeah, he can. If Tennessee's playing from ahead, he has upside to go for 25 to 30 carries. But I just think there's other running backs I like more, so I'm just not getting Derrick Henry on the slate. James Robinson, I get it if you want to go there. It's a really good spot. But playing with the backup quarterback, am I confident that this Jags offense is going to run as well as it did with Minshew? Maybe not. So that's the worry there with Robinson. And then we get to the two top cash game plays, in my opinion, at running back. James Conner at 6-9 against Dallas. 14.5-point favorites. Dallas has not been able to stop anyone. James Conner, bell cow back. All this is pointing to him being a really good cash game play. He's the guy that could go for 20-plus carries in the ground. He does get some involvement through the air as well, and the price is below $7K in a great spot. So I really like James Conner here for cash. Also, really like Chase Edmonds for cash at 6-8. No Kenyon Drake. Edmonds has been really, really good with his limited touches. Now he should get a majority of the work. I just think it's too cheap. So I do like Edmonds a lot. I do like James Conner a lot. I think they're the two top cash game plays. You can even consider a guy Dalvin Cook. That's probably where I go for cash games. Cook, Conner, Edmonds. Mike Davis, 6-7. There's no way I'm going there with McCaffrey there. Zeke Elliott, I don't trust this Dallas offense. Carson, out. Josh Jacobs' status is up in the air. Either way, I'm not overly excited about it. I think he's a fine play this price. If you landed him as last piece, it's okay, but I'm not going to prioritize him. I'm not going to get to Gurley, even though they are favored. I don't want to play Todd Gurley at that price. Edwards or Le'Veon, it's kind of a split right now. Kansas City abandoning the run a bit. I'm not going to go there. Taylor at 6K in a tough spot. They utilize two other running backs. No thank you. Gaskin on the IR. We'll talk about a couple possible punt plays from Miami, but nothing I really feel comfortable with. Now, Gibson at 5'8", I could see going to him. He did have 20 carries for over 100 yards last week. This is a game they're probably going to be playing from ahead. So I think you can consider him. I wouldn't go there in cash. Montgomery at 5'7", he's just a workhorse back. And he actually did look pretty good on the ground last game against New Orleans in a tough spot. This is a much easier spot. Again, he's just playing the entire game. And he's getting the targets right with no Cohen. So I think Montgomery, I think you can go there in cash games if you want to. I think you can. I think he's playable in both formats. I do kind of like him here in the mid-range. Definitely one of my favorite running back plays in the mid-range, that being David Montgomery. Duke Johnson at 5'6" is fine. Again, they still have, or David Johnson, so they still have Duke Johnson for passing down work. This is a game they're probably playing from ahead, so maybe David Johnson does go for 20-plus carries in the ground. I think he's an okay play there in the mid-range. I'm not getting to Melvin Gordon. Let's see. Again, Le'Veon I'll pass on. Now, DJ Dallas at 5K I think is in play. They do have Homer is, I think, projected to be more like full go, so we'll see if Dallas does get a majority of work again. If you need a punt play or a cheap play, I think he's viable, but I'm not fully convinced he's going to get a majority of the work with Homer looking to be more healthy this week. DeAndre Swift, I like the play in GPPs. Can't trust it in cash. They still have AP. Carry-on still gets a few snaps here and there. But I could see him getting there. I think he is definitely the best back here for Detroit, but obviously only for GPPs. Justin Jackson at 4.9, I think is a viable punt here on this slate at running back. Did have 17 carries. He's a guy that they're giving a bunch of targets through the air. 6, 6, and 5 last few weeks, and it's a good spot. I think you can go to Justin Jackson. Can you go there in cash? I think you can because of just the price point and the matchup. Now, sure, right? They still utilize Kelly, right? So he's not a true workhorse back, but at that price, he doesn't need to be. So, yeah, I think he's fringe playable. With Dobbins and Edwards in a tougher spot against the Colts, probably not for me. You can go there in tournaments, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play them. Gallman, my issue here is that for some reason they give carries to Alfred Morris. Dion Lewis got the third down work, so and not enough work for me to really feel super confident in that. Again, Wilkins, he actually got a majority of the work last game, but do I trust that? I don't trust it. And then finally, we'll talk about the Miami guys. I'm just not comfortable with it. No Gaskin, no Breida. They have Laird, Howard, Ahmed. Who knows? I don't think one will be like a true workhorse. So if you're going to make me pick, I'll go Laird since he's the best receiving back here on this team. But I don't feel comfortable with those guys in cash. If you want to take a shot on one of those guys in GPPs, fine. But it's not for me, obviously, in cash games. Wide receiver, well, at the top, there's, again, a lot of good options in really good spots. Like Hopkins against Miami, definitely pairing with Kyler Murray, who I love. I think that's Jack goes lower on this slate. So that's in play for GPPs. Metcalf and Lockett. I do prefer Lockett for the discount here against Buffalo. Again, that game is projected the highest over under the slate. So yeah, for me, it's Lockett over Metcalf. Can I go Lockett in cash? I don't know if I can go Lockett in cash. It's just his up and down nature. But I like the price point here. I like the matchup. Diggs at 7-4 against Seattle, and this is game stackable 100%. So yeah, all the guys really in the Seattle-Buffalo game are in play. Julio at 7-2, I think, does look like one of the better cash plays, especially if Ridley's out. I think the targets will be pretty safe for him. So yeah, I do like Julio decent amount here. I think you can go for cash, especially if Ridley's out. Hill, more suited for GPPs. Keenan Allen, I think, is another good cash game play here at the top at 7K. The targets, like I said, I talk about every week with him with the targets, but it's double-digit targets every single week and a good matchup. Sure, the price came up, but did it come up enough? I don't think so. I still like Keenan Allen a lot here. Again, Ridley not looking like he's going to play. If he does not play, again, it's a bigger boost to Julio. We'll talk about a min-price guy who I think is in play that not a lot of people are talking about, that being Christian Blake. Robinson at 6'9". Well, you can definitely pair him up with Foles here, right? Targets have been a little bit shaky last few weeks, 9, 4, and 7. But again, a good matchup here. I think you can look his way. I think he does go a little bit lower owned. Again, Lockett, love his upside there in GPPs. Fuller, him and Brandon Cooks are both in play here on this slate. Again, nice pairing with Watson, I think will be popular. The upside in Fuller is pretty high in a good spot. Targets have been pretty solid for him. A touchdown in every single game last 4 weeks. Right, he's a guy that look into the red zone. Thielen at 6'7". If you want to get off a chalky Cook, then you can look to Thielen. Right, that didn't work out for me last week. Right, I went with the pass catchers on Minnesota, and obviously it was Cook. But we know Cook's going to be pretty popular. So an interesting way to kind of leverage that is maybe you go Adam Thielen, right? Because he's a guy that does have upside here, clearly in a really good spot. Other options here at wide receiver. So this next mid-range, I'm not super excited about it. All the Pittsburgh players, wide receivers, I should say, are viable, but more suited for GPPs. I think the cash game play is James Conner. DJ Moore, I think, flies under the radar a bit, but he's just been a little bit inconsistent. The price point is viable, though, again, for GPPs. Talked about Cooks, talked about Fuller, both in play for me. Other options here, we do have Marvin Jones at 5-1. No Galladay. Good matchup. If Stafford's out, though, it does worry me a bit. If Stafford is in, I feel more comfortable with Marvin Jones. Now, he did get the price hike, but yeah, he would be the number one receiver there in a good matchup. Again, Deontay Johnson, he probably is my favorite Pittsburgh receiver here in this really good spot, but I think he's more suited for GPPs. Other options here at wide receiver. Let's see. John Brown is fine at 4-6. He's been not great last few weeks, but has been dealing with some injuries. Looking like he's going to be good to go fully for this week in a good matchup. Right, we've been wanting to target players against Seattle. So does John Brown finally get back on track here? I think it's definitely possible. Gage, I don't know if his role changes a whole lot if Ridley's out. Again, Blake's the guy I'll talk about here in a sec. Samuel with McCaffrey back, I think that does take a little bit of a hit to him. Is he still in play? Yeah, but I'm not overly excited about it. Let's see, cheaper wide receivers that are viable here. Mooney, I like him a good amount here at 3.9. He played over 90% of the snaps last game. 5, 7, 6 targets. And he's a guy that's getting a ton of air air yards. Yeah, I like Mooney a good amount here in a good matchup. I think you can definitely pair him up with Foles. Either way, if you want to just use him as a one-off, I like it. So Mooney, definitely one of my favorite value wide receivers here on this slate. I think Marvin Hall is viable here with no Galladay. He does probably get a majority of the snaps here. He had 4 catches and 7 targets last week. Again, a good matchup. Would get a boost, obviously, if Stafford does play. Other options, Hamler at 3-4 is viable if Tim Patrick is out. Patrick's status is up in the air. Hamler did play majority of the game with Patrick out. If Patrick's in, I'm not confident that Hamler does play the snaps they did last week, so this would be strictly dependent on if Tim Patrick plays. If Patrick's out, I think you can look to Hamler in a good matchup there against Atlanta. Other options at wide receivers. So let's talk about a couple I want to mention. Let's see. So Christian Blake. He's at the flat min. He came in when Ridley was out. Only had 2 catches on 2 targets, but he was the guy. Atlanta's kind of weird, right? It's not like a depth chart thing with them, right? It's not like, oh, the guy who's number 4 on the depth chart, it will now take the role of Ridley since he's most likely out. No, they have kind of like back wide receivers, right? So Blake backs up Ridley. Zacchaeus kind of backs up Gage. So it's a little bit weird, but I think Blake, he basically played a majority of the game, 54% of the snaps. That's when Ridley went down, what was it, like around halftime or right before halftime, and then Blake came in, and again, he played basically the entire game. So 3K wide receiver, I think he will play majority of the game if Ridley's out. I think you can definitely look to him there at that price. Other options I want to talk about, so Colts, T.Y. Hilton, doubtful. Marcus Johnson, min price. Status is up in the air, but he's expected to play. In games that T.Y. has been in, 8 targets, 4 targets. And he still played like 60% of the snaps. So if T.Y.'s out, I think you can definitely look to punt with Marcus Johnson. Now, sure, the matchup's not great, but again, doesn't need a lot to get you there at that price. Let's see, was there anyone else I wanted to talk about for cheap wide receivers? Talk about the Detroit guys. I think that's it. And this is a super, super risky play, but Jakeem Grant is at min price. He's a speedster with Isaiah Ford now not on the team. That I think you can look to. You can look to a guy like Jakeem Grant, but I would not go there in cash games. Just a GPP play, right? He's min price. I think he does probably get a price, or probably does get more snaps than no Ford. I think a lot of those out of the slot. We'll see though, right? So like you could, if you're making a tournament lineup, you could go like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, run it back with cheap Grant, and hope he does get a majority of the slot work with Ford no longer there. But yeah, that's a super, super risky play. And that about wraps up for wide receivers. So let's move on to tight end. Yeah, Kelsey, like Mahomes, like Hill, and play every single week. Darren Waller, I like at 5'8". I think he's a safe play. I think he's a little bit underpriced. He's just getting targeted a ton. The matchup's pretty solid here. Again, the second highest over-under right now on the slate. So I like the pairing of Carr, Waller once again here this week. Hockenson at 5'1". I think you can go there with no Galladay. They did have 10 targets last week, but I think I only go there if Stafford is in. Noah Fant at 4'6", I think looks okay. Did have 9 targets last week. The targets have been there for him in a good matchup. The price, is all right. So yeah, Fant's fine in the mid-range. Ingram, kind of the same thing at 4'3". Back-to-back games of 9 and 10 targets. That looks pretty good for a guy at 4'3". Hayden Hurst and Henry. These two guys I think are also viable. Hurst at 4'1" has just been super, super consistent. Targets have been there. He's running a ton of routes. Hunter Henry, good matchup, playing a majority of the game. 4K seems a little bit too cheap. So yeah, there's a lot of pretty solid tight ends plays on this slate. Other options like Logan Thomas, I actually have punted with him the last couple weeks. It's worked out. Well, I had a touchdown in back-to-back games, kind of bail it out. He's still running a ton of routes here. Yes, he's still playable, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with guys above him, guys like Henry, Hurst, Ingram. I just feel a little bit more comfortable with those guys than I do Logan Thomas at the moment, but I still think he's viable on the slate. Super cheap tight end plays. Not a lot here, like Irv Smith. If you think the Vikings are playing from behind, you can look to him at 2.9, is playing a majority of the game. Eifert's back here. His price at 2.7. It's a good matchup, but playing with the backup quarterback, are you confident in that? Yeah, you can consider it, but nothing you really feel amazing about. And then finally, defense here. So defense is tricky. Again, it's a super high variance position that usually I just punt it and hope it doesn't kill. If I just punt the position and hope whatever defense I play doesn't kill me. So if you want to go play it safe, of course, right? The Steelers at the top, but you're going to have to pay almost $5K for them. So is it going to be worth it? You're going to have to sacrifice a lot to get them in there. Other defensive options, like yes, Washington, I think it looks good, but 3.4K it feels like a lot to pay for defense. So what are the cheaper defenses I think you can consider? Well, I think you can look to the Vikings, especially if Stafford's out. I think the Vikings are a decent defense there at 2.4. I know they haven't been amazing, but against the backup quarterback, I would feel decent about it. And then Falcons. Denver is not great offensively, so sure, Falcons defense has not been good, but I think you can at least look to them. Cardinals defense at 2.9. I'm fine with that. Tua kind of struggled last week. So, yeah, there are some playable cheap defenses. Again, that's normally my route, is I just punt it and just hope that the defense I play doesn't kill me. That's probably the route that I'm going to go with once again on this slate. Since defense, again, it's just such a high variance position. I wish DraftKings would remove it. I think most people do agree with me in that. But, yeah. That is going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. So, if you have been enjoying the content so far, I would really appreciate it if you'd like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when to upload videos, you know when to go live. I will be live streaming for the main slate 1 hour before lock on my YouTube channel, going over everything, talking cash plays, GPP plays, and answering any questions you guys have at the end. So make sure to check out the live stream on Sunday morning, guys. Thanks again. I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you all Sunday morning in the live stream.